Guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Shamoya. Welcome to this side of my channel where we talk about all things books, and we're back with another wrap up. This time I'm doing my February 2025 reading wrap up. So if you want to see all the books that I read this month or last month, keep on watching. We're gonna dive into it. I think in total I read like 12 books, but I think going forward I'm not gonna set like a physical number of books that I want to read. I'm reading. I am reading. I'm reading every single day. Even if I don't get to read as much certain days, I'm still reading. So, yeah, I'm going to stop doing the numbers because I'm averaging anywhere from 8 to 12 books right now. I think last month I read 10, right? And this month I read like 12. So, we're reading, and that's all that matters. So, I'm not going to set physical numbers, but at the end of the month, I will tell you guys what all I read. So I'm going to be using my iPad, and I'm going to go into my good notes, which is the reading tracker that I use the most. I think I use it the most because it's the easiest to use, because it automatically add the books that I'm reading on Kindle Unlimited straight into Goodreads. I just have to go in, share quotes, add my ratings, write a little paragraph if I feel like. So it's really easy for me to track my reading. And then from here, I'll copy and paste into the other platforms that I use. But this one is like the easiest that I use because it's linked to Amazon. It's owned by Amazon. So, and you can follow people on Goodreads. So if you want to follow me on Goodreads to read like my actual reviews, you can do that as well. Okay, so I started off February with reading two short reads. I don't remember. I think in my last wrap up I told you guys that I started one of these books, or at some point I mentioned it, but I started one of these books like a day, like January 30 or 31st, but I got busy with like planning for the new month and stuff like that. So these two books end up being on my February wrap up because I read them like the end of January's first 2 days of February, and both of them are by the same author. They are, again, I will insert the cover, and Speak, and both of them are novellas by Jahquel Seegars. So the first one, again, it's been out for a long time. I think it came out, let me go in the book details. Yeah, this book came out in 2022. It's 160 pages. I first saw this book when I was reading other books by this author, Jahquel Seegars. She has another series called what is it called? Ooh, I can't think of the name of the series right now. But she has some full novels, and I read Restore Me, Revive Me, Release Me, and I saw that this book was on there, but I wanted to read Reclaim Me before I read it, but I still haven't gotten around to Reclaim Me. But when she announced at the end of January Speak was coming out, and I was like, okay, I'm that person who needs to read whatever book one is before I read book two, even if you can read them separately. I just feel like when you read like in the order that the books come out, you get introduced to like characters that might show up in a current book. So that's the way I like to do it. So again, I'll just read a little bit about what the book is about. It says Jackson was supposed to be my forever. So Jackson is the female, and no, wait. Jackson is the male. What was the female's name? Amira, something like that. So it says Jackson was supposed to be my forever. I've loved him since I was 13. Every challenge, every obstacle, they've been through some things. Then it says, I know they got divorced. It was like 2 years since their divorce. And it says, my sister marrying his brother in Mexico puts him back in my orbit. So like I said, this is a post-divorce novella. So basically they were married, they got divorced, now they're being forced to be around each other for this wedding. So her sister is marrying his brother, so they're flying to Mexico. Immediately she caught a glimpse of him in like the airport, she starts running. She literally was running away so he doesn't see her. When she gets to the plane, she was told that her flight got upgraded to first class, only to find out, guess who she's sitting next to? Jackson. But he was so determined, like his sole mission for this trip in Mexico was to win her back. Obviously, this is a book, and most time in the second chance romances, you see a lot of breakups that were based on miscommunication. Like all they had to do was have a conversation. They probably would never have broken up. And that's pretty much what this was about. Like the thing that caused them to break up, I feel like if they had had a conversation, she had said, this is what I thought, this is what I saw, a conversation would have fixed it. But it's in the fictional world, this happens a lot where there's some type of miscommunication that tore them apart. So throughout this book, you get to see him trying to win her back. She's, trying not to go back down that road. And then eventually you get to see what it was that broke them apart. This is my first novella by J.L. Seegars, and I haven't read her books in a couple months. And this was a good reminder of just how good her writing is. The way she writes a book and write this short book felt like a really in-depth book. I don't even know how to say it. She just writes really good books, and she touched on topics of obviously like the divorce and their relationship, but it also touched on IVF, which is very close to home for me. So you get to see that they had a couple like IVF tries and stuff, and the stress of that and how it affected their marriage, their relationship and stuff like that. I can appreciate that. Like whenever I see books talk about like deep topics, love. So this was really, really good. I enjoyed it. I gave it 5 star. I don't feel like there's anything I would change, except again, like I said, miscommunication, misunderstanding, breakups that are just like all you had to do was have a conversation. The spice, this one was very spicy. Not the word spice, but like really spicy, very detailed once they, got re-involved. But yeah, I enjoyed it. And then I dived right into Speak because again, Speak came out the end of January, maybe like the 27th or something like that. This one is a post-divorce romance. So in the first couple of pages of this one, you get to see her being in a marriage where she's not happy. The husband barely talked to her. Like they're in the car, they only go to places together for the show, but once they're like alone, they don't talk. Like there's nothing to talk about. And then she tried to have like a conversation with him to explain her feelings, and the way he was just dismissing her feelings, it was giving narcissistic. It was giving, I don't really like my wife. And baby, immediately I was like, I cannot wait for her to find somebody who's gonna love her right. And did she? In the form of her divorce lawyer. So it says, let me see if I can read a little crack from the blurb. This doesn't really say much about what the thing is. But yeah, pretty much he didn't treat her right. She decided to leave. A year later, he sends her divorce like papers, and now she has to get a divorce lawyer. So you get to see the struggles of her finding like her independence and finding her purpose. And then she meet the divorce lawyer. And what I appreciate about this book was that the fact that even though they met and there was a little attraction, a little not even flirting. It was just like him being there for her and caring so much about her, but at the same time representing her. But their relationship didn't really happen till after the divorce was final, which I appreciate. Even though it wouldn't have been wrong if they did before, because they were separated like a year before she even got the divorce papers. But I love the way she wrote it to where they really didn't dive in till after the divorce was final. And this was only another 152 pages or something like that. Another 5-star read. There was nothing I would have changed about it. The spice came like after, again, only like a couple scenes after they got together, so it wasn't as much sex as the first book, but still got, it's a romance book, you're gonna get something in there, so that was good. So those were my first 2 reads, and then I decided to finally read Demon's Dream. Demon's Dream, and don't let the name fool you. When I first heard the name, I was like, Demon, I'm not reading a book about this. Was like when I first saw somebody talk about it on TikTok. But then everybody kept talking about it. I'm like, oh, this is right up my alley in terms of urban romance. But I really haven't read a lot of romance where there's like real like street unaliving, that type of stuff. I don't really read a lot. I'm reading a lot of it now, but a year ago I wasn't. But anyway, once I knew what the book was kind of about, I wanted to read it. But it is 700 and let's see, 700, it says 68 pages, but I think some of it was like, I don't even remember. This says 768 pages. This book came out in 2022. It is one of the most talked about urban fiction. What is urban fiction? This means you're getting gangs, you're getting guns, you're getting unaliving, you're getting almost like a mafia romance type vibe. That's what urban romance is. So you're getting streets. You're getting straight streets. So this was on my January TBR, but I end up not getting to it in January because there was so many books coming out in January that I wanted to read. So I didn't get to it in January. So I was like determined to dive into it starting February. So I started this like February 5th to the 9th. So it took me about 4 days to read this book. For it to be 768 pages, you never get bored. You get so many different point of views in this book. So you have the main guy whose name is Damien. They call him Demon because he's rootless. So you got Damien. You got Dream, who are the female, the main female for Damien. But then you get to point of view of Demon's brother, Smoke, which is another male in the book. I forgot what his first name is. Was it like, it wasn't Demetrius. I forgot what his, Demetrius? They call him Smoke. And then you get Dream's sister, who end up falling in love with Smoke. I think her name was like, there was a lot of D names in this book. Let me grab my phone because I was trying to take notes while reading this book because it was, okay. Well, I didn't even write down her name. I think it was like Denea, something like that. It was a lot of D names in this book. But pretty much what happened is you have 2 different crime families. So you have Damon and his brother and their organization. And then you have Dream's family, their organization. Well, Dream's younger brother, D'Angelo, decide to get the other, what's her name? He gets Crystal pregnant and married. Got married to Crystal, and Crystal is like not Dreams. Crystal is Demon's niece. So Demon's brother's daughter. That's not supposed to happen. Because in most of these like crime families, normally the marriages are arranged. So you're supposed to be all pure and whatever so they can find you a husband that will make the organization stronger. Does that make sense? This is for my book girlies because some of my regular viewers probably not going to understand this. But anyways, they got together behind their parents' back and got married. So now Dream and her family has to go to this other crime family and say, hey, this is what we found out. How can we fix this? And Demon's brother is like, well, actually, we want a daughter for a daughter. So since my daughter decided to go marry your brother, I want Dream to marry my brother. So it's like a daughter for a daughter situation. So of course they tell Demon and tell Dream like, Demon will get Dream for 30 days, whatever he wants, he will get it. So you get to see them navigate that little arrangement, and then you get to see Dream's sister, who is already in an arranged engagement, getting ready for her wedding. Something happens that make her not want to get married to that guy anymore and kind of fall for Smoke. Smoke was there for her and stuff like that. In between all that, there's situations going on between other people and trying to explain this book is something else. But let me just say, like I said, it's 700 and something pages, but you never get bored. All right, so after I finished Demon's Dream, which I gave 4, I would say I would give it like 4.5 stars. I'm not gonna say it's 100% perfect, but it touched on a lot of topics. It touched on a lot of topics like childhood trauma. Like, you get to see why Damien is the way he is. You get to see everything that Dream go through. You get to see a little bit of domestic abuse. There's a lot of like just topics that it touch on that you can't even like would have imagined would have been touched on. So it never gets boring. All right, so after finished 700 and something pages, I needed a little quick read just to bridge the gap. So on February 10th to the 12th, I don't know why it took me so long. I think I was busy working. But anyways, after that, I clicked on The Sweetest Redemption. In January, I read The Sweetest Revenge, which was a short read by Gray Huffington. So I saw that there's book 2 to that. So I was like, let me go ahead and read it. It's the same female from the book, from the first book, but you get to see her get her happy ever after, and that was nice. It was short. It was only like, how many pages was it? I know it wasn't a lot. It was, it says 116. Didn't feel like it was that long because I think the first book was like 80 pages. I'm trying to see the book description. So the female, her name is Earth, which I like, but it says that something happens and she's just spiraling. Nothing in her life is going according to plan. She meets this guy. They have like a one night situation. Never thought she was going to see him again, but then something else happens. And then she runs into him and he's like, look, we had that one night. We had that one connection. And, you know, I can give you the world. I can give you the world. And turned out he was like a rapper or something, but he was hiding his identity. But it was a sweet little read. It was a sweet little read. Nothing too crazy about that one. Then I read You Can Do Damage, which was my very first arc. And if you don't know what an arc is, it means an advanced reader's copy. So whenever authors are coming out with books, they will select people, or you can sign up to get like an advanced copy of a book. I think I mentioned this before in one of my vlogs or something, but I saw that a lot of people get arcs from NetGalley. So I signed up for NetGalley, and this was the first arc that I got approved for. And it was coming out on February 25th. So I read it from the 13th to the 14th. This was a really good book. When I chose to sign up for this book, I didn't even know what to expect. I knew it was a romance book and I recognized the author. Her name is Casey Mills. I've read maybe 1 or 2 books from her in the past. So I saw that and that was enough for me to sign up. but I didn't realize it was another like crime family urban type fiction. So once I started reading it and realized like what it is about, I'm like, oh, okay. It was on like 238 pages. It follows the male Kincaid. Obviously, he's a G. He's a G who, have like their underground activities, illegal activities that they do. But then on top, he has businesses, he's rich, he's doing all the things. But he's in another situation, just like Demon's Dream, where he needs to get married to this girl from this other family so that he can take over being in charge of like this organization. So he's engaged to be married, but the girl's dad did something that made him say, "Hold up. How can I get out of that situation?" Well, when they checked the contract, it didn't specify who he has to get married to. It just says he has to get married to someone by this date. So that was the loophole for him to marry someone else. And of course, he already had his eyes set on the female Nari who works at like a gentleman's club type situation. So Nari is going through it. She's going through life. Nothing is going good. She was given up. She's been in the foster care system. Like she was given up by her mom. She was living with her cousin and she's being evicted. The cousin literally told her last minute while she's packing her bags, like, "Oh, we got to move out by 5 p.m. And I didn't pay the rent." And she showed up to the club with all her belongings. So she was going through it. Nothing is going right. And here comes this rich guy who's like, "I just have one job for you, marry me." But one thing he told her was like, "This marriage can be as real as you want it to be." So this was really, really good. The way he took care of her and the way he was like, even though this is an arranged marriage, I'm going to give you all of me. Even though this is an arranged marriage, you're going to get the full treatment. Like you're going to go try on a dress. I want you to have this wedding of your dreams. And they went on a honeymoon. Like you get to just see him trying to give her the world, but her being scared and being like, which part of this is real? Which part of this is just for the arrangement? But that man loved her. She just needs time to catch up to everything and to process what is real and what is fake. So that is literally what I wrote in my review. I'm like, she was struggling with figuring out what is real and what is fake. And obviously there's stuff going on the side with the organization, with his family that he has, stuff like that. But if you love a millionaire romance, possessive male, will do anything for her, just say the word. He literally was like, "Go pick out our home. Here's my realtor. You're going to look at these $1 million homes and pick one that you want to live in. Whichever one you like, that's the one we're going to get." So yeah, just stuff like that. I enjoyed it. And this one, there's going to be a book 2. So when I got to the end, I was like, wait. We still have so much more to talk about. And then I realized there will be a book 2 coming out in October. And immediately whenever that comes out, I will be reading. I really enjoyed that a lot. Next up, I listened to Neighbor Favor. This is book 1 in the, what is it called? I forgot what the series is called. But this is a Black author that she was having book 3 come out in February. And I was like, wait, I still haven't read book 1 and 2. So I decided to use my Spotify credit to listen to the Neighbor Favor. So it took me a few days. I would listen here and there. Mostly when I clean and stuff like that is when I like to select a book and listen to it. That's the best way to me for you to listen to an audiobook. Either when you're driving a lot or when you're cleaning or something like that. That's the most focused I can be. So that was my listen of the month. It was good. It was one of those where at first I didn't know what was going on because it was almost like she emailed someone but didn't expect a response, but then she became like pen pal buddies with this author overseas, and they were having a good little back and forth with emails and stuff, and then all of a sudden he ghosted her. And at first I was like, okay, was that the main guy, or is she gonna meet someone else? But it turns out that he moved in her building months later on accident. Like it wasn't even like a stalker situation. It was literally coincidentally moved into her building. So they developed like a little neighbor friendship. But then it felt familiar because she's like, I feel like I've met you. And I was just waiting for them to figure it out. Like as I'm listening to the book, I'm like, hello. She has that same tattoo you guys talked about in the email. She has that same cat that you guys talked about in the email. I was just waiting for them to figure it out. And he was being a little like hesitant. And I was just like, just do it already. But it was cute. I gave it 3 stars. To me, 3 stars just mean it was okay. It was a good book. It was okay. Nothing that stood out to me where I'm going to keep talking about it situation. So that's like my scale. Number 3 is like good. 4 star is like really better than good. And then 5 star is like I'm going to keep recommending talking about this book for a really long time. Then I dived into Finding My Bodyguard series. This was at the top of my list as well for 2025. I've heard so many things about Finding My Bodyguard and Bodyguard My Heart. And she was coming out with book 3, which is out now. I'm actually currently reading book 3. So I wanted to read book 1. And after I read book 1, I was like, I need to read book 2. And then I realized that book 3 was coming out. So I was like, yeah, I really, really need to read book 2. So the first book, Finding My Bodyguard, is another mafia romance where the female Monroe, she's being arranged by her dad to marry this guy so he can take over the organization. Her dad wants to, I don't know if he was stepping away or something, but he needed this guy to take over. So she was arranged to this guy who doesn't treat her good at all. It's just an arrangement. He does what he wants. She doesn't want that life. She wants something more, something better. So she's in this relationship and this guy wants her. She's a plus size girl and he wants her to look a certain way. And he wants her to get her body done. So she goes to Miami to get her body done at the male, what was the guy's name? Dr. London's office in Miami to get her body done. And he had already saw her once in the club and was like, you deserve better type of situation. But he didn't think he was going to see her again. So when she walks into his doctor's office, like, I'm here to get my body done. He's like, why are you getting your body done? There's nothing on you that needs to be fixed. If you're doing it for a guy, you think he's going to love and respect you more because you got it done? You're so wrong. So he refused to do the surgery. He was like, nope, not doing it. So he left it at that. But then he goes to a hotel and was like, why were you going to get the surgery done? I can get you out of this arrangement if you really want to be out of this arrangement. So you get to see that. Really, really good. I love Dr. London. And then, of course, it's not going to be all so easy. You know, once they find out you're trying to get out of the arrangement, there was going to be consequences. So you get to see that, the suspense of what's going to happen once they find out. But this was nice. This was really, really good. I enjoyed it. It's really short as well. I think it was like 180 pages, maybe 200. Before I dived into book number 2, on Valentine's Day, I listened to Talk to Me Nicely by Brianne Deney. I actually read this book, I think like November or December of last year, but she was coming out with the audiobook. And when that got announced, everybody was talking about that audiobook because of the way it was done. And let me tell you, and it's a short audiobook, it's like 1 hour long. This audiobook had sound effects. And she just raised the standard of what I would want romance audiobooks to be like. And I hope that she protect whatever, like, I don't even know what you do with that. Like, she came up with that idea, and whatever she had to do to like protect that and make money off of that, I hope she does, because yes, sound effects. That's all I'm gonna say. Sound effects. Go listen to it. But be prepared. Do not listen to it at work. Use your headphones. One of the other girls, she was like, don't listen to it around anyone that you don't want to judge you. And that is so true. It has spice is 10 out of 10. So if you're not wanting to listen to that, don't. But if you like that type of stuff, definitely check it out. And I'll try to link everything down below. Next up, I read Losing Control, Half on a Baby or Two. This was a follow-up novella to one of my favorite books I've read so far, which is Losing Control. Losing Control was probably the first urban fiction that I read last year. So it was the first like pop culture, street rapper meets girl type book that I read last year. This was like a follow-up to see what they were up to. So they got married. Now they're trying to have babies. She's having some difficulty. So you get to see what they decide to do. I don't want to spoil it because it's short. So yeah, something happens and now they're navigating, trying to become parents. You get to see all the characters from the first book pop up in here. Everyone is still funny. You're laughing, you're cracking up. Of course, there's a plot twist, something happens, but this book had me laughing so hard. 5 stars. Great follow-up. It's like the perfect, you know how sometimes you read a book and you're like, that's it, leave it there, don't do anything else with it. This was the type that you're like, yeah, that was a good follow-up to the original book. Then I read book 2 in the Bodyguard series. So this follows, so in book 1 you have Monroe and Dr. London. In book 2, Dr. London's sister Samara is falling for his best friend, Dr. London's best friend. So his sister and best friend. Of course he feels betrayed because he didn't know about it, but you get to see how they got together, because in book 1 she was like, when she found out about Dr. London and Monroe, she was like, well, since we're dropping secrets, I've been seeing your best friend. So now in book 2, you get to see, wait, how did they come about? How did the best friend and the sister get together, and their relationship, but still dealing with like the mafia and her not wanting anything to do with that. And of course, he's in charge of Dr. London's ex-mafia. Does that make sense? Because Dr. London didn't want anything to do with the mafia, so he became a plastic surgeon. So his best friend took over when he didn't want to do it anymore. So you get to see all of that come together. So that was a great book. I love when a male will do anything for a female, like anything. And you get to see them and their relationship. That's all I'm gonna say about it. After that, I finally started on Capone, another urban fiction, not a crime family, but street stuff. Capone is a twin. His brother is Capadonna, who is still in jail during these 3 books. The next series that I'm going to read, Capadonna is finally out of jail, so he's going to be getting his books, and I hope to read those in March. So in book 1, you get to learn about Capone. He's the male character. Before this man even said a word to the female Erin, he said, that's my wife right there. Literally, they were inside like a store or something, like a gas station, something, and Erin was outside talking to this teenage boy that is a bad influence for her brother. So she's out there, you know, telling him stay away from my little brother and stuff like that. And this guy that she grew up with, Naheem, goes out there and break up the little altercation. When Naheem walks back into that store, Capone was like, who's that? And he's like, oh, I just grew up with her. And Capone was like, funny, he doesn't know that like that's my future wife. You were out there talking to my future wife. I was like, oh my goodness. Like before he even said a word to her, then he ran into her at like a cookout again, and he said it again, like my wife, like she's gonna be my wife. And did she become his wife? But you get to see their love story, and there's a lot of side characters. So you get to see Naheem point of view. You get to see Capone's sister Capri, her point of view. Who else? There's this bad guy that Capone has a little. You get to see a couple different point of views. Some of them I didn't care for. I was just like, can we just read about Capone and Erin? But I get it. It's character development, and you get to see these people because some of them are gonna have their own books as well. Like Capri has her own book. So I get it. But at the same time, I was like, this is way too worthy. Worthy. Not worthy, but wordy. Wordy, too many words when it could have been cut down. Like some of the details I didn't need. But what got me with this book that I was not prepared for was the cliffhangers. I did not know that these books had cliffhangers. So when I read book one, it was like when I was finishing book one, it was like late at night. So it was like 11:30, and I'm like, I'm gonna finish this book before 12. I'm dying, need to go to sleep. I get to the end of book one, and something happens. And I had to click on book two immediately. It was one of those where somebody got hurt, and you're like, are they gonna make it? What happened? Who did it? That type of stuff. So I had to click on book two to try to figure out those first few pages, what just happened. So then when I read book two, same thing. Something happens at the end of book two that made me click on book three immediately. Now, when I started book three, I was like, I need to pause because I had one more advanced copy of a book that I needed to read. So I had to pause and go into Sunshine with You, which is a friends to lovers romance. I had an advanced copy of this book, so I wanted to read it so I could be ready to review it when it comes out on the 27th. So I didn't get it done before the 27th, but I finished reading it on the 27th. One of my favorite friends to lovers that I've read so far. Two people have been in love. They've been in love for 5 years, and both of them are just in denial. And by the time the guy was ready to be like, I want you, I want to date you, the female, she was dealing with so much that she's like, I need a moment to figure out everything. Mutual pining. That means both of them want each other. You get to see the female deal with like anxiety and panic attacks. You have the male who's dealing with stuff from his childhood where his parents got divorced, his mom left, stuff like that that is still affect him, and him still carrying that around. So you get to see them have individual stuff that they're working on, but together they had the most beautiful like friendship, like weekly lunch dates, coffee dates. The banter in their friendship was just, fun and funny. I enjoyed it. I really, really enjoyed it a lot. This is a black author. Well, all the books are black authors. I don't even have to say that. But this was a contemporary romance. So just a light, fluffy, but still deal with a couple of issues type romance. Highly recommend. Highly recommend. I'm actually going to pick up the physical book this week to go on my bookshelf because I need it. But then I went back and finished Capone 3. They got their happy ending, or happily, they got their happy ever after at the end of this book. But book number 3 was filled with a lot going on. A lot of loose ends that were being tied up, a lot of drama, a lot of pew pew going on. There was a lot going on in book 3, but I'm happy that they got their happily ever after for Capone and Erin. And of course, it set it set the mood for the next series, which will be Capadonna. So that is, I think, everything that I read in February. So of all the books, I think two of them were short. No, three of them were short reads under 160 pages, or four actually. Four of them were short reads. One of them was an audiobook. So that's five. And then the rest were full reads. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 of them were full reads, 6 of them were novellas, and then the one audiobook. So that is my complete wrap up for February. I'm thinking if I should do another video telling you guys what I want to read in March. I already started the first book, which is the Bodyguard book 3. So I'm reading that right now. I have a arc that I need to read that comes out on the 6th. I have other books that I didn't get to in February that I hope to read in March. And I also have new books coming out by authors that I love that I want to read. So let me know down below what you read in February. Did you read any of the books I talked about? Let me know. And yeah, if you enjoyed this video, give your girl a thumbs up, like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you guys in another video. Bye, y'all. Wait, your bed, you can sleep in mine. Yeah, let's make it happen, girl.